let's discuss swing systems and scalp systems. What does swing mean and what does scalp mean? Seems there's a lot of confusion out there, but let's make it a little bit simple. Scalping and swinging. How do we know which is which? Well, here's an easy way to think about it. A scalp can be considered a trade taken on what? The 4 hour time frame zone. Scalping and swinging, it's not about the pips, and it's not about even the move itself, it's about the time frame. So, are you scalping or are you swinging? It depends on the zone and the time frame of that zone. A scalp is any trade that you take off a 4 hour zone. We can call it intraday systems. 4 hour is the macro, and a 15-minute is the micro used for the entry. Macro zone, macro target. It seems that some people are using micro targets. We never said that. Macro zone, macro targets. If you're going to use a 4 hour zone, use a 4 hour target. This is really important because some of you kill your winners and you let those losses ride and you hope and pray. Kind of the opposite. Okay, so we want to squeeze the probabilities here. 4 hour macro, 15-minute micro. Basically, a 15-minute entry can be considered a scalp. Now, depending on the pair, a scalp, really tough to say, but maybe this is a good scalp, and maybe this is a great scalp, but this is the kind of the ranges. No, I'm not talking about 10, 15, and 20. That's not the level we want to be on. We want to be on a little more higher, more efficient level. Okay, but these are the average movements, and it really depends on your pair. Maybe some USD pairs, maybe less, unlike some yen pairs, which are swing pairs. But we're here to differentiate between scalping and swinging. Okay, so scalping is essentially a 15-minute entry off a 4 hour zone. Well, what's swinging? Swing systems, obviously a weekly zone. So what's our micro? A 4 hour. Just like you see a 15-minute engulfing or a 15-minute pin bar on your inside your 4 hour zone, you want to see a engulfing or a pin bar on a 4 hour. It's just a 4 hour engulfing or a pin bar on upon which you would enter. Obviously, a major difference is what? If I take a 4 hour engulfing stop above the signal versus a 15-minute engulfing, obviously the stop would be larger in terms of pips, but more importantly, a 4 hour entry within a weekly zone, that is a swing trade and it has the potential uh, of becoming a swing trade. Okay, it's not because based on the bias, we didn't say it's based on the bias because you can take a swing trade against the bias. Yeah, it could happen. But any weekly zone has the potential to be a swing trade. It has to be treated accordingly. Okay? Too many of you maybe took a trade at a weekly zone, but you're using some 15-minute little targets, or even maybe some 4 hour targets. Weekly zone, macro target, just like we said on the 4 hour 15. Macro zone, macro target. The target has to be on the 4 hour for a 4 hour zone. The target has to be on the weekly for a weekly zone. Okay, let's look at this point here. But I want to be a swing trader. A lot of people say that. Who's stopping you? Okay, here's a good idea. Maybe you have a scalp account and a swing account. Maybe you have an account that you use to, obviously, this one you won't be active much on it, but you use this one maybe to get to clicking at the weekly zones. Set and forget type of strategy. It could be HPT, LPT, but it's a weekly zone. Weekly zones are the best. You're getting the best moves. You don't want to be, not even the scalpers that we call the scalpers that a 10 pip scalp, that's who you do not want to become. This is the kind of scalp you want, at least a 50 pip scalp, especially on a yen pair. You can consider that a scalp, okay? But you also want to be, I'm sure you're not going to have problems finding a scalp on, there's a million 4 hour zones to draw, and you can get many different entries on a 15-minute micro, okay? But it's the weekly zones that they really don't have the patience. I mean, look at this zone. Maybe a retest of this, but a few weeks it was here. A few weeks it was here. A few weeks it was here. A few weeks it was there. Actually, not much down there, but most are not patient. Well, maybe if you had a account, maybe you set or you get active at the weekly zones, but that's not much to do after that. Okay, you can be a swing trader today. Okay, just decide to trade at the weekly zones and use a weekly target. Okay, somebody who maybe sold right there, their weekly target somewhere over here, they would not be going on the 4 hour or 15-minute to find a target. Guess what? Weekly target, it's going to take weeks to hit it, but that's why nobody's a swing trader. Okay, they all want to be a swing trader, but they don't want to have the patience and the set and forget mentality to be a swing trader. Okay, I didn't say set and remember. I didn't say set and manage. Set and forget. Very few do it. But weekly zone, weekly targets, and that's just a swing trade. Here's a 4 hour zone to zone. Now, notice that 149 to 150, 151, this is way over this, but 4 hour zone, 4 hour target. If somebody were to get active there, I'm sure there's a zone here to the left, and decided to buy 4 hour zone, 4 hour target. So where would we set that? That is the earliest basing zone that could be a target. We never got on the 15-minute to look for 4 hour zone, 4 hour target. Target number one, if you're super desperate, not a bad idea. Where's the next target? Maybe target two up here, which is taking a trade from a 4 hour buy zone to a 4 hour sell zone, zone to zone, but on the 4 hour intraday type systems. And I'm sure they'll give you much healthier than this if you sit back and relax. Okay, and the same thing you want to think about if it's a weekly zone to a weekly target, and what's the difference? A wider stop for a 4 hour entry, and the target, it'll just take longer. Notice how, although they look similar, you could treat them the same and start scalping, maybe some intraday stuff. This is a 4 hour zone. Maybe you can trade some 4 hour zones within this weekly impulsive move going to the next weekly zone. The weekly zone to zone, you can, in the meantime, do this type of zone to zone on the 4 hour. So this brings us to the summary of it, which is this A to B move. Okay, the main thing to understand is 70%. I mean, who knows if it's 70, but most of the time it's in the middle of nowhere in the edges where everyone needs to get active and get slaughtered, unfortunately. Okay, it's not always at the edges, A and B. Okay, but the idea is if it's a weekly zone, you can swing it from A to B, and these scalps can be considered these down moves within the larger weekly downwards movement. Scalps within the swing movement, you can consider that intraday in the middle, and most of the time it is in the middle, and it's maybe moving away or towards a zone. And this is where this is so tricky because let's say it's here. Okay, well, now you have to predict, which we don't do, instead of reacting. The smart ones are already in. Okay, but now you have to predict. Okay, if you buy, that means okay, it has to go up. If you sell, okay, it has to go. What if it does it just sideways for it does nothing, and you're just paying. You're paying those expenses, and it's not really the time to get active. Okay, but here's the thing: you're not going to be a master at swinging and scalping. Most people tend to master scalping. Honestly, most people tend to scalp and stay there, unfortunately, and they never graduate to swinging, which is just clicking at the weekly zones and being patient, which is a whole other world. But you can learn how to do this and take a zone 4 hour from zone to zone on a 4 hour. It could just be an intraday movement, but a trade is a trade. Okay, and then maybe you develop some patience and you're able to click at the weekly zones and actually let them play out to weekly targets. Okay, this is why we may say separate accounts, because you can get active on your 4 hour intraday account and trade, and you don't want to be active on the swing account. Forget about it. Okay, and you're taking weekly zone to zone. This is not something you check every day. Maybe every Sunday you check it. And then if you're more day to day, you can do that. But some people don't give 9 to 5 to the market. They can take advantage of this, and maybe they want to get a little bit more active. They can implement these kinds of systems, but understand what you're doing. Scalping, swinging, don't get the wrong idea about it. Most of the time, this maybe is what's going on, and the proper environment for it, because it's maybe not really in the weekly zone, and it's maybe in the middle and ranging, and knowing when to do each. I mean, this is, I wish I can teach it, but there's a time for each and there's a way to do each, and understanding both and the potential of both, and whether or not you're dealing with a 4 hour zone or weekly zone. Those kids on the 1 minute, 15-minute zones, you guys are already toast. Okay, the smallest zone is a 4 hour zone that we use, and that'll help us understand when to scalp, when to swing, how to deal with each, and maybe stick to doing this 4 hour stuff on a 15-minute entry, and later can do this. But you can do them both at once, but most don't believe it. Okay, hopefully this clarified it. Scalping and swinging, understand it. Swinging, I would say 100 pips over. 100 plus is a swing, but don't think about it in pips. I don't even like to use these numbers. Think about it from zone to zone. Scalp, 4 hours zone to zone. A swing, weekly zone to zone. Understand the edges, understand the middle, understand where you are, and understand to adjust your trading system according to the trading environment.